Good evening, everyone. The time is now 5:01 p.m. And the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convening a workshop on Monday, November 13, 2023. A quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called and notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Any public comments, Becca? None. All right. There being no public comments, we'll move on to the board workshop. Dr. Smith?
Board, thank you for being here this evening. Janet, I just heard Janet saying a minute ago, it feels like I haven't seen you all in a long time. I know I've seen some of you, but it does feel it's been a strange month. So it's good to see you, all your faces, and we appreciate your work for the students at Belton ISD. Tonight we're going to go into a brief discussion. We've got about an hour to focus in on facilities. We know that this is an important piece of the educational experience that we have for our students in our school district and for the teachers that help make those student experiences come to life. And so Mike's going to walk you through some information tonight so we can begin having conversations about our next steps with facilities in Belton ISD. And we'll ask some questions along the way, and eventually I think we'll need to probably have a more detailed, longer, just special meeting on facilities in the near future. So Mike, we'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Matt. Thank all y'all for being here tonight. And so we're going to try to have it will be a brief discussion in an hour. Try to really touch on 4 topics tonight and get some input from you guys on what information you need from us to be able to do your jobs well. We're gonna give a quick bond update. Typically, we've been doing those every other month during the board meeting, but since we were going to focus on facilities tonight, this seemed like a better place to have it because we could have a little better discussion maybe than in the formal board meeting. I'm going to give an update on long-range facilities planning team and the work that group has done over the last year and a half and kind of upcoming things with them. We're going to talk a little bit about the facility master plan. That's one of our Goal 5 key progress measures this year, and we are on pace to bring back a detailed master plan to the board in January, and so we want to give you an update on that, and then also some upcoming steps where we'll engage more with you around that process, and then we'll have a discussion around athletic facilities, kind of what work has been being done over the last year or so, and kind of where next steps are in that regard as well. For the bond update, this is we tried to keep it to a focus of some really good pictures. There's some really exciting work going on. So you can see this is actually the kitchen area at Hubbard Branch, and you can see that a lot of the equipment and tile is already being put in. You can see where the serving lines will be. For Burrell Elementary is getting close. The pictures here, you can see this is the west corridor, which is one of the main hallways in the building, and you can see the floor down in the gymnasium, which has now since been striped and painted. So we're getting really close to substantial completion of this project. Many areas of the school, the final inspections, punch list walks, and things like that are taking place. The construction crews continue to wrap up final touches inside the building. Our technology team has been over installing some of our own technology equipment in the closets, things like that. Playground equipment, if you've been by lately, the fencing is mostly done. They're finishing up playground equipment, finishing up the irrigation, and then they will come in and put in the sod where there's sod and the hydromulch and things like that over the next couple of weeks. And then we'll start furniture installation towards the end of November and have all of that wrapped up by early December. So this project is rapidly coming to a close, and we're really thankful for our construction manager and all of our subcontractors being willing to go in and do what it takes so that we can start school in January. Hubbard Branch.
Mike, can I add one thing?
Sure.
I just want everybody to know it is our intention that we're going to actually host our board meeting at Burrell Elementary next month. There's a lot of things that actually have to come together for us to make that happen, but to get to a spot where our facility is going to be in a good spot for us to hold a board meeting and to be able to show that off to y'all before the board meeting, I think would be pretty special. So we're working on it. Just want you to know to keep that on your radar, and we will keep you informed along the way. By saying that publicly, I may have put a little pressure on us all, but we're working on it and wanted you to know that that's coming up. We're really excited about that project.
And I would say too on that one, we think we've created a really nice transition plan to to try to make sure that not only are our students ready to go on January 4th, but our teachers have some time to get over and get themselves situated beforehand too. So going to be a really exciting month in December for
What's the anticipated substantial completion date?
November. I'm going to ask Steve Berry. So we're shooting for late November, mid-late November. Still a few little loose ends to tie up. So yeah, mid to late November.
January, but they were, Cloud has been able to accelerate their schedule. We were shooting for November 15th. We got a few little things left to do. Fire
We're
alarm,
really
fire
close.
sprinkler, so it may slip to next week. It's,
Right.
we're within a week or two.
Hubbard Branch is really exciting. You can see here, if we haven't shown you, like I say, it's been a couple of months since you've driven by, or since we've driven by together, or since we've shown you pictures and given you an update, but you can see the walk-in freezer and refrigerator there in the kitchen area. You can also see the picture to the left is one of the, this looks like the middle, so it looks like it'll be the 4th grade wing. The second floors have been poured, and they're starting to frame those in. And so kind of where we are, we're at about 50% of the building has been dried in. We've started interior finishes on the northern portion of the building, which is the cafeteria and the library and the gymnasium and the office space, and some of the support areas. All the second floor areas now have structural concrete. The roofs are on, and work in these areas are now shifting to build in the dry end, rough end, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So we will be, hopefully in the next few months, we'll be completely dried in, and they'll be on interior finishes throughout the building. So things are going very well at Hubbard Branch. Belton High School, you can see the picture to the left. That's the slab of the band hall. Picture to the right is that's a pretty cool drone shot they got of the celebration, the construction kickoff that we had. I thought that y'all might enjoy to see that. So they are finishing up. They've formed. Both slabs have been poured, and so they're pouring, and they'll lift the concrete tilt wall panels soon. We're also working with stakeholders kind of concurrently to make sure we're coordinated for all of the renovations that are going to take place next summer. So there's going to be renovations within Belton High School. There's going to be a complete remodel of the current CC Center, and a lot of things outside of just the new CTE facilities and the new band hall that by August of 24, Belton High will have a lot different feel throughout many parts of the building and in a completely remodeled CC building. So we're still on progress there for August 24 completion.
Mike, when's tilt wall going up at Belton High?
Mid-December is what we're shooting for. So.
About 3 to 4 weeks from now is when they're
Yeah.
projecting to start lifting the panels.
Lake Belton Middle School's in a similar position. You can see to the left is the band hall for the slab for the band hall. To the right is the additional locker room space and the foyer, restrooms, and concession area on the athletic side. This project is also expected to go vertical with the concrete tilt wall in mid-December and late December, and then be completely dried in by the end of January. So both of these projects, along with Southwest Elementary, are all still on schedule to be completed by our August 24 completion date. And at Southwest Elementary, this one was really time-consuming on the relocation and additional utilities necessary. You can see some of the storm drain there to the left on that picture, and you can see the pads to the right. So you'll have you can see here will be the gymnasium addition, and this will be the classroom addition with the art room, the music room, and the teacher workspace in that area of the school as well. So we are getting ready to have the building pads complete. Then they'll get the underground utility piping and then the concrete foundations up. Part of this project, the gymnasium will be concrete tilt wall. The classroom addition will be regular construction with steel frame and concrete blocks. Ag Barn and Delta facility. The Delta facility is what you can see pictured here. We're getting very close on these. So the design team's been working all the way through the fall on this project. We feel like we've worked hand in hand with our stakeholders from our Delta program. And so they are moving quickly to finish up design development and construction documents. We anticipate to be able to release this project for bidding in December and then bring a recommendation back to the board in January. So We're really excited about this project, and the location ended up being here at the corner of Birdwell and 4th, and we feel like it's going to be a great central location, lots of opportunities for partnerships, and you can see that it's going to be a really cool looking building too by the rendering here.
What's the square footage?
The square footage is roughly, I don't want to get them backwards. It's about 10,000. It's 10,000 square feet. So a little over 10,000 square feet. Ag barn, which will house our poultry and swine, and then to free up our the ag barn that we already have for all of our other breeds of animals. We are releasing construction documents on this. We will have bids back by the first week in January, and we hope to bring a recommendation for a contractor for this project to you in the December board meeting, with construction expected to start in January. So our goal for the ag barn and for Delta facility is a summer 24 completion, and to be able to use those for the 24-25 school year.
You said for both?
For both.
Wow.
Delta will be 1 month behind if everything goes well, but ag barn will bring a recommendation to you next month, Delta in January, with construction starting. And the ag barn, the covered portion, the enclosed portion, is a little over 7,000 square feet, with the area to pull trailers and equipment under to unload and load animals and food and supplies. And then we have the access control security vestibules. We will be bringing a proposal to you tonight with a recommendation for the contractor to do our access control and to begin our camera upgrades in areas of the district. And then also for our security vestibules, if you'll remember, we brought forward a recommendation for a contractor. We've had our initial kickoff meetings, and they have given us an initial construction schedule that will start at the first 2 campuses in mid-December, and we'll finish up over the summer. So all 15 security vestibules will be finished prior to the start of the 24-25 school year. Many of them will be completed during the 23-24 school year. We will work with our safety and security team, the contractor, our facilities team and staff, and with each campus team to come up with a specific plan for each campus on how we'll pull that off, to have construction going on while we're having school. Schools do it, and we'll utilize nights, weekends, and holidays as much as we can, and try to minimize the impact on the instructional day. But our goal is to get these completed as quickly as possible. And I went fast, and there's a lot. I will say that very thankful to the team, our team. I think it'll go without saying that we have from Steve Berry in construction, and our purchasing team, our business office and finance team, with technology and Shad and his team. There's a lot of people working very hard on these projects, and they're coming together very quickly. It's kind of, for us as a district, to have 7 or 8 construction projects going on simultaneously is a big feat, and we have a lot of people working really hard, in addition to their other things that they do for the district as well. So we'd open it up for discussion. Also, when we discuss this and others, is if there's information that you need that you're not getting from us, this is a great time. Let us know, and we'll make sure that we get that information to you in future reports or as a follow-up to this report as well.
The location of the Delta facility, you said 4th and Birdwell? Not 6th and Birdwell, it's 4th and Birdwell? Is it towards the...
To the back,
Yeah.
back part of
Back end.
Wilson Kersey back there.
Okay.
Yep. Right. Currently, it's we have some. We're storing a few of our salvage buses right there, but at that corner. So.
There were a couple of reasons for that. We wanted to be off of 6th Street for loading and unloading purposes with a bus, but close enough to the center of the city here. And so I think that on the back part of Wilson Kersey there, I think that achieves where we want to be, but also gives us a little bit of more control over how to get people in and out, and maybe have our walkers who, when we end up walking 2 places eventually, might be a little safer walk. Any other questions for Mike on current bond projects or progress in the projects?
Very informative, Mike, thank you.
Thank you. Like I say, we will come as we get closer. we started the bigger projects first because those are the ones that are going to take the longest. Those are the ones that are going to be most expensive. And as we started bidding these projects a little over a year ago, we knew there was still some volatility in construction costs and things like that. So as we near completion of the elementary schools, and mainly the elementary schools, Belton High School, as we get further along into the construction of those, we'll be able to start bringing back some clearer financials to you on our GMPs. What kind of savings are we going to have? How much contingency did we have to spend? And those sorts of things as well. So we've been a little light on the financing so far. The good news is every project has been bid or will be bid. And we found ourselves that we budgeted well enough that we're going to be able to move forward with everything. So, but some are a little tighter than others, but you can anticipate in the months ahead, we'll be able to give you a little more detailed financial information too as we come back on each report. Long Range Facilities Planning Team, this has been a really fun group. If you'll recall that we brought a recommendation to you guys in the summer of 2022 after our bond passed, and as we were thinking of next steps, we brought two proposals to y'all. One was for a bond oversight committee, and I probably should have included that in the bond. That group meets quarterly. We've had 5 meetings so far, and all of those the presentations we use with that team are all posted on the bond website. And we'll have our next meeting with that group on December 3rd. We've also had 7 meetings of the Long Range Facilities Planning Team so far, and we'll have our 8th meeting on October 27th, right when we come back from the Thanksgiving break. And so I don't know if that's great scheduling or not, the Monday after Thanksgiving break, but that's when we're doing it. That seemed like a great night. So we had 5 meetings last year. We've had 2 this year. We'll have our 3rd. And then 2 meetings scheduled for the spring. We always, when that group convenes throughout the year, we always come back and kind of go back to our purpose that was outlined in the charter that the board approved. And that is our job. We're not a decision-making group with the Long Range Facilities Planning Team. We are a group that we bring them together, we present them data, we let them analyze data. We spend a lot of time talking about potential solutions. Here's a problem. Here's what the data tells us. Let's brainstorm solutions. Let's maybe even narrow solutions. And then they often make recommendations or tell us what their preferences would be. So if you'll recall, one of the big things that we did last year is they worked with us on some of the elements of the attendance boundary. They did some work initially around parameters. They brought back some recommendations around parameters, as did our DWIC, as did our a thought exchange that we sent out to our parents, and as did our leadership team, which includes all of our principals and all of our directors and above. So they are one of several stakeholder groups that we can go to throughout the year and get feedback on facility related issues and planning, and then come back and help us make good recommendations to you guys based on their expertise and on their passion for our school district. So the committee composition, and this is from the charter as well, so it includes teachers, campus staff, school administrators, parents, community members, and district administrators. This one's a little different, that we don't have appointments on this committee. It's strictly on voluntary basis. So throughout the year, we'll ask principals, hey, if you have a parent or a teacher that might like to be on this group, we will ask committee members, do you know other people in the community that might like to serve? I feel like we have a good mix of the one thing that I was telling someone the other day is we'd like to do a drive to get a few more elementary parents involved. It seems like a lot of our parent representatives have older students, and so we need to make a drive to get some more elementary. We have 63 current members. Not all 63 members make it to every meeting. Some of it depends on scheduling. I know 7th grade football hurt us a little bit this fall. We had several members that were involved with kids or grandkids with 7th grade football. So, but we do meet. This is not a group that has a start and an end. There's not a finite number of meetings and we're done. We see this as a long-range group that will continue to advise the district for in the immediate future.
I think it's important to point out in this one too, this is not a bond planning committee. This is not a group that is appointed by the board, so they're not coming to you all to give recommendations. This is a group that we've convened to provide the administration with input on facility challenges that we have moving forward. And we want to ensure that we're using that voice in our community as an administrative team to make good plans prior to bringing anything to you all. And so some people get that confused sometimes when you talk about bond planning committees and stuff. This isn't specifically about that. This is really about identifying the facility challenges that we have in our system, gathering their input, studying data, and using their information for us as an administrative team to make good recommendations to you all moving forward.
And we have a bond oversight committee as well,
Mm-hmm.
and this long-range
Yep.
facility planning, two different things.
Two different things. The Bond Oversight Committee was also a chartered group, and that group is made up of board members each had an appointment. We had two at-large appointments that came from our Bond Exploration Committee, and then we have 3 students. Each high school has a representative on that committee as well. So it's a 12-person committee. They meet quarterly, and we do dig in with that group too, a little bit deeper into some of the financing and estimated budgets and things like that. We usually have a 90-minute meeting. We review every project, and then we usually go through some element of planning. I think last month, at the last meeting, I think Shad talked to them about what technology investment has to go into these construction projects and what we do as a school district to make that happen.
So there's no overlap with those two committees?
There's no overlap. There may be one, or there may be a person or two, but there's no overlap. And responsibilities in what we ask them to do, there's no overlap between the two. One of the big things we ask our Bond Oversight Committee to do at the end of each meeting is tell us what information are we not getting out to our community that they need to have around our bonds so that we can be more transparent and they have the information they need.
You have 63 committee members, but there can be more
There can be more.
as you
Yeah.
move forward?
Mhm.
I can see as a parent or a community member that the information that this committee talks about is important. If I was a parent, which I am a parent, and I'm exploring either moving here or and I just want to learn more about the district, are there meeting documents, like if I got on the website, that I could look up to see, what does this committee do? And
There are, for both groups,
for
there
both
are.
groups?
So, mhm.
There's minutes for both groups?
Well, it's not a called meeting, so there's not minutes per se, but there is the presentations we use, and then there's some work product in some places where that applies.
How do people inquire as to, what it takes to get on a committee or?
Yeah, they just have them reach out, and we tell them, we gained a new member. There was a retirement in a local Chamber of Commerce, and we had a new person to represent that group from the Temple Chamber come on, and so basically we reached out to her, told her what the meeting was about, told her the format, things like that. And so anyone that's interested can reach out, and we'll get all the information to them, and if they want to come join, we'd have them join. So there's no, that group can't get too big to suit me because we need good representation there. And it's 5 nights a year, so I mean it's a fairly substantial commitment we're asking for volunteers. So the long range facilities planning team last year, some of the big work they did, we had 3 different activities around attendance boundaries. They also gave the input into strategic discussions about the development of a master plan. We do, every time that you get a demographic update, the long range facilities planning team gets a demographic update as well. We always want them to be, want to make sure they're informed about what we're seeing down the road as far as our enrollment capacity goes. And then we also had them heavily involved in athletic facility solutions discussion. One thing that we're able to do that's in our charter is we can call focus groups from the long range facilities planning team as well. So if we want to have a work group outside of the structure of 5 groups that can bring back more detailed discussion to the big group, then we did that with stadium discussion, stadium solutions and auditorium solutions, and I'll show you the timeline of how much work they put in over about a year. We also have right now we have a safety subcommittee going, and they're gonna come back and give us a report on some recommendations around meeting TEA safety requirements and also doing some needs assessment stuff around what our next steps are on our safety plan and safety plan throughout the district. And I'm happy to say on that one, we do have parents and teachers and some of our staff and board, but there was a law enforcement presence was really excited to come be a part of that team and help us make some safety decisions or some recommendations. This year, we've worked through a couple of activities around capital improvements. We have given them the fall demographic update. We talked through like a transportation facility strategic discussion around solutions, and then they've helped us define more elements of master plan and given us some feedback on some of those things as well. And it's been a good group. I think you all have seen the fruits of some of their work, and some of the work that we've brought to y'all, some of the recommendations we've brought to y'all has been done through them as being one of our stakeholders in that process.
Questions, board discussion, any questions on Mike's work with the long-range facilities planning team?
Do you facilitate a lot of those meetings, or who in leadership is involved with
We
them?
do. So I facilitate some of the discussions. Steve has facilitated some of the discussions. Sam Skidmore and their staff has facilitated some of the discussions. David, when David Bennett, before he retired, did some. Rodney and his team will do some. So it kind of depends on who has the area, the most information, area of expertise. Shad and his team will lead some discussions with that group. So it just kind of depends on the content and what area we're working with and through. So. And those are usually 2-hour meetings. So when we meet on Mondays, Wednesdays, whatever the day fits the calendar best, and we usually go from 6 to 8 with that too.
Next one's at November 27th.
November 27th. So master plan, we have been working, a lot of people have been working on this to get to a point where we've established some of these things. And so one of the ways, the best way I've seen this described when you talk about facility planning is a stool. And I have a house on top of the stool, but if any of these things are out of whack, then you probably are going to have some struggles in meeting your future needs in your facility planning. And so obviously your demographics plays a big portion of that. Understanding where you are, where you're going, when you anticipate the growth that you're going to see, and also trying to understand the demographics on your campuses as well. The instructional framework and programming, making sure that we have facilities that support what we're trying to do instructionally and make sure that kids have great instructional experiences, and we can support the programs that we're having at each campus. The facility assessment, so we're using a lot of information back from our 2020 and 2021 facility assessment, and using that as a foundation for some of the things that I'm going to talk about in a second. And then obviously you have to have a funding plan of that as well, because you're never going to have an opportunity that every single need can be funded every single time. So you've got to know what your priorities are and what your need is so that you can address it from a funding standpoint. And so I pose a question to you. And so why master planning? Why is master planning important? There's some elements that are required. Some of the legislation that has come out in the last legislative session talks about the need for a master plan, in addition to the ed specs, which y'all recently approved. Having a master plan where you have done some facilities assessment, you have tied it in with your demographics. But we really want to take a second now, and I think it works out perfectly the way we're seated, is if everyone could just grab a partner and just talk about that question up there. Why master planning? And the question I pose is to know, what do we need? When do we need it? What does that mean to you? And kind of what does that mean when you talk about planning? What do we need and when do we need it? So if y'all could just partner up with the board member by
Yes, you are. You drew the short straw. I'm sorry. You can take that up with Becca for making you sit next to me.
What was my first thought? Seems like
Yes. That's so true.
if you're not planning,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so what else can I say?
Yeah. And for me on this one, there's multiple components. It's not just growth. It's investment in facilities. It's investment in so
Just because we lose 600
Paint the carpet,
to
one
graduate.
might just be replacing hot water heaters and air conditioners. You have to have
That revolving
a
door.
cycle of new facilities, growing facilities, investment in the old facility projects, and investment in maintenance. And so by doing all that, you can get into a thoughtful plan. Our projections today. And so I think there's, in my mind, there's always three lanes. It's really about what do you want to do to the facility itself? What's probably the operations right now.
Which is good. And you mentioned it many times over the years, the timing of.
That's a
So
big
that
deal.
has a lot to do with it. You know, you just had a bond last year. If you don't have a master plan, how you gonna, you got something coming up. You can't ask for money again. That ain't gonna happen.
Well, no, it's a community can see that cycle. Through a series of meetings during the year and talking about meetings. Good. I think that it is
He was out there by himself, right?
Worse than
Oh, that was
that's why we have to have all of those things together. So that we know.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yep.
This bigger.
Yeah. So.
Get some signal from that.
Who would drive
And that's what he's been working on. So all these things that are working together over the course of facilities assessment. You start bringing all that together over the course of years. You have a product to be able to say to it. Here's how we're going to fix it.
Well, yeah, I think when the college
Don't tell me nothing about it.
people going to these
Ask him about it. Well, right. So he's going to get our broker.
No, they
Sounds good.
Don't ask me.
Good. Good. That's true. We're good, right?
All right, so y'all tell us your thoughts on that question, because it's a really important question that we're gonna have to wrestle with as a district. What do you think, Rutgers? What y'all talking about?
Suzanne and I said we need facilities now and start making those plans in the future as cost efficient as possible.
Okay. Anything else from you guys?
So
Chris and Aaron?
we had decided to answer the question, why master planning? So whether that was the question you wanted us to answer or not, that's the one that we talked about. Right, and it's about providing the level of focus so that we can stay on track and are not chasing a pet project over here that doesn't help us get to the end goal and doesn't help us meet our needs, right? But really provides the focus for us to look, the next 5, 10, 15 years out. I think previous boards, and actually some members of the current board, right, involved in this prior, I think have did a really great job of kind of looking out in the future and kind of laying that out. And I think it's up to us to take that next level of focus, because I think the current plan was like planned to 2025, right? I think that's what the current plan is, right? So we need to look out another 10 years and do our part to set that vision. Yeah.
You know, it's a thought that I had about what's the appropriate amount of time to plan for? Is it 10 years? Is it more? I mean, I know a lot can happen in a short amount of time, so I don't know if 10 is a magic number or if more.
Okay.
Well, I was saying, it's kind of obvious when you drive through a school district, sometimes there's little, and you can tell they haven't had long-range planning, or they didn't have the funds to have long-range planning. Whatever it was, when people get behind on that, it's all reactionary, and they're always just patching things from then on. They can't ever get ahead to plan, what do we need for the future, what do we need for the growth of the school district. And I think we've always done a really good job with that in this district. In fact, I served on long-range planning before I got on the school board. That's one of the reasons I decided to run for school board, was because I enjoyed that experience so much, being on that committee. And I learned so much. It was when we explored, should we build a second high school? And I was one of the people who did not think we should. And here I sit. And I think it's, of course, once you sit on something like that as a community member, it opens your eyes to the truth of it all and what is so needed in our community. And the numbers and the demographics don't lie. It's what it is. And it's the responsible thing.
Very good. Jeff, anything else?
Not really. I mean, just talking about master planning in general, and we had that discussion about not doing it. But I think by planning ahead, what planning does is it gives you ability to react when things do happen. And when we talked about it here is, you go back and look, based on the demographics we were running 3 and 4 years ago, we would right now be talking about building another elementary school and another junior high. Well, everything has slowed a little bit, so we're able to pivot because we have a master plan. And it's like Dr. Goldman said, now we're able to maybe shift some of our focus from building some new structure to bringing up to date some of our existing elementary campuses and things like that. If you don't have if we're not planning ahead, then there's no way. I mean, what we thought was going to happen 4 years ago probably won't happen for a little while. We have slowed down. But we had a plan for that. We're like, okay, well, in that way, we had already started budgeting out, saying we know we're going to need to, well, now that's just going to shift, and we're able to shift some type of priorities to some of our needing campuses that are a little older.
To me, planning is a part of preparation. It's an element of preparation, and if you're not preparing, then you're preparing to fail. And like Matt was saying, Matt says there's lots of things that come into place. You know, you got to assess facilities. What are we going to do with these facilities? What is it going to cost to get these facilities up to speed? And when are we going to spend the money? And are we going to have the money? Because obviously some things you're going to require a bond. And you can't go to the voters for a bond every year. So timing's got to be right.
Very good.
Matt, you said something else. What was the other part?
You made it sound better than I ever did. I think just knowing and understanding that there's pieces of the puzzle that all have to be brought together in the right cycle, and the more we can be planned ahead of time for our community's sake and transparent for our community, the better they can support something. But if it is based on what somebody remembers or not written down, or it doesn't take into account growth, it just takes into account maintenance of old facilities, you're going to have constant questions about what the school district is asking for. So if we haven't asked for our community, the more well-planned we are, the more they can continue to trust us at that.
You know, Aaron, you were talking about the time period. You know, I've always thought it's 5 years being tactical and 10 being strategic. So 10 years, you know what's in your system right now. You know, absent, 2 grades and perhaps the kids below that, but at least you have a good snapshot of what's in your system now. You know, if you go 10 years. I don't know, I guess there's different ways of looking at that.
Well, thank you all for that feedback. It's very helpful. And so one of the things you can expect from our master plan is really talking through this idea of capital projects. And when you talk through that, there's really three distinct categories. There's your major maintenance category, which is going to be your big systems, your roofs, your HVAC, your plumbing, your electrical systems, things of that nature. Sound and light we know based on history, we know based on our facilities assessment, all of those things kind of have a lifespan. And you can usually expect for them to be new and then expect for them to wear out at some point during that lifespan. So the planning, we want to do a lot of planning, and we want to make sure that we're well informed as a district around HVAC systems and roofs and when they're going to need to be replaced, when it should be anticipated, and what our plan is to make sure to take care of that. Capital renewal is another area where you take a facility and basically, when are you going to refresh that facility? When are you going to replace the carpet? When are you going to paint the walls? It might include you tie it in with your HVAC, and if you're going to have to replace all your ductwork, go ahead and replace your seal and tile and light at the same time. It's when you take an older facility and you give it a facelift or you give it a refresh. And the capital renewal, you modernize that facility. And then the third would be capital improvement. That is whenever we're defining that as whenever you take a facility and there's a need at that facility that didn't exist before, and you invest in that facility to do that. For instance, if you didn't have an art room at a middle school and you decided to add art at that middle school, well, you would need to make the improvements necessary to support that programming at that middle school. You would need plumbing in that room, you might need a kiln in that room, you might need additional storage space, you might need different types of furniture. An outdoor learning space might be an area of capital improvement. So we feel like that from our facilities assessment, from the needs that we've met and the needs that we anticipate, and from feedback from stakeholders, and we've just completed a big stakeholder input with our principals and with our directors on what they see as their needs in this area. And some of the feedback we got falls into the major maintenance category. Some of it falls into capital renewal category. Some of it falls into capital improvement category. So one of the things we're going to try to do a really good job of is, when you answer that question, what do we need and when do we need it, is take those things, categorize and prioritize them, and then to the best of our ability get some cost associated with them on what we think they might cost now and what they might cost in the future, so that we can make those plans. And that's this kind of falls into that one of the legs of the stool that we looked at, the facilities assessment part. And these kind of go hand in hand, especially on the capital improvement portion, with your demographics and what programming you're going to be able to offer at those facilities, and do you have the current facilities to offer that programming as well. I'm not going to read these off. These are some of the elements of our master plan. One of the things I think is very interesting too is to make sure we have a really good plan on standards. I think about Rodney coming in with his team, and as we replace equipment, that we have a district standard that we try to go to, whether it be a door, or a window, or a rooftop unit, or a hot water heater, or whatever, that we're not just buying different things every time we buy things and replace, but we do try to stick to standards so that we can universally apply the same equipment throughout the district, and the efficiencies that come along with that. You see program needs there, and we talked about the programming and instructional framework earlier. There's some coordination with our teaching and learning department around this planning, and also with our technology department around this planning as well, and so that they can make sure that we have what we need facility-wise to meet the needs of our students. This shows some of the things. So someone mentioned earlier, and rightfully so, all of the great work that had gone on previously. So, when we started trying to break down this, we said just in recent history, kind of what has been done to address facility needs in the district. We had the major 2017 bond that addressed a lot of growth issues, but also addressed some aging facilities. We had a 2019 capital projects program that a lot of y'all were involved in, where we went to some of the older campuses and did some upgrades. The facility assessment of 2021, the work of the bond exploration committee, all of the bond projects from our 2022 bond, and kind of a combination of addressing growth and addressing some program equity and some campus aging and evolving campus needs. The adoption of the ed specs and then doing historical demographic data. So a lot of work has gone in, even over the last 5 years, to get us to where we are, what needs have been met, and being able to articulate what future needs we have. So kind of the next steps in this process, we are trying to wrap up a lot of the data that we've been collecting, a lot of the input that we've been collecting. We still have a few more opportunities. We'll have a December workshop with you guys to get some final feedback on some elements of the master plan. We have another meeting with our long-range facility planning team, and then we're going to have some work with our leadership team and some other groups. But we will come to you in December with the elements of our long-range master plan and present that to you at the January board meeting. Discussion, and I think we had a great discussion. That was some great feedback y'all gave us as we worked through this. But any other discussion about master plan, master planning?
What did you pick in terms of a time period, Mike?
For how far out we will go?
Right.
I think you made a good point earlier that, you know, we're going to have very, very specific information for 5 years. I think you'll also see there's going to be a section where some areas where we probably have deferred. So there's some things that we're going to see should have been done already or could have been done already, and that will have to go onto that list. We will have pretty good data on most everything out to 10 years. And then the big systems that go outside of 10 years, as far as roofs and HVAC and things like that, we'll be able to go out to the life of the equipment on most of those. So we should have a pretty good idea of 5, 10, and 15. And then the systems that last 25 or 30 years, we'll know outside of that. So did that answer the question?
Yes.
Any other questions about or discussion?
Mike Manuel asked me earlier, and I just want to make sure I had said it right, that when do we have an idea of this master plan being, I don't want to say completed, but completed and presented, and you said January.
January,
is that correct?
yes.
And so this has been work that has been ongoing with multiple groups, and so by the time we get to January, we should have a product to be able to show you that has those legs of the stool included in them, so that you can see things together in the cycles that we would potentially need to be in. As a governing body, that's an important document for planning for the future.
January, we liked January because it's an appropriate time that some of the information in there can start guiding our 24-25 budget planning too. So. And the final thing tonight will be athletic facilities. We have done some work over the last year just discussing athletic facilities, doing some detailed needs assessments, studying what other districts have done, and kind of looking at what our current reality is. And so when we talk about athletic facilities, obviously that could incorporate a lot of different things on a lot of different campuses. We're really focusing in right now on our stadium and natatorium solutions. Our current reality on both of these is we have one stadium, and it hosts all of our varsity football games at this time, and it's very capable of hosting events at the 5A, 6A level. But it does have needs of major repairs. It needs some capital improvements, and it's located on the campus of Belton High School. So that's a discussion that's been ongoing. And then the second is around our Roy and Jean Potts Swim Center, natatorium. It serves the district as that district natatorium. It's located at Belton High School, and we have swim programs at 7 different campuses that go to that natatorium, along with the swim club that the district owns and operates as well. And so that's also a facility that has done very well. We have tremendous swim programs, but it is a facility with a finite lifespan and space limitations. And so those are the things that we've been discussing, and things that we'll want to discuss with you guys in the upcoming months.
I think, and I've spoken to all of you individually over the course of a year and told you, my feeling on this one. There are a lot of strong opinions on this. My strong opinion on this is that we have a plan. And so this is part of long-range facility planning as well, because when you're talking about, I'll use natatorium as an example. That's not a cheap dollar amount, whatever it is. And I think the last thing this board would want to do is we kick the can so far down the road that the current natatorium is unusable for student programs for the future. And so my ask of us as we engage in these discussions over coming months is we all have individual opinions, and what I'm looking for is for us to get to a collective opinion so that we're all on the same page and we can talk about that with our community very confidently so that they know that there's a plan moving forward as well. I think it's important time for us to do that. If you think about that last demographic study and you think that another new high school might be needed in 10 to 12 year range maybe, we've got to really think about that in how we plan for expansion and use of things like athletic facilities prior to that. We can't just keep saying that it's coming down the road. And so I appreciate y'all engaging in these discussions over the next few months. And I think this athletic topic is one that we're going to have to come to a shared agreement on sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and so what's next in this discussion will be to determine the best solution to address the stadium and auditorium needs to be included in our long-range master plan. So that's what we would be working towards. We'll ask you a question in a second on this. I did want to kind of show you, when we talked about our long-range facilities planning team and focus groups. So here's kind of the process that's led us to a discussion around stadium solutions. If you'll remember back in 2021, it was one of the things that our bond exploration committee discussed and prioritized. It was something that didn't make it into the 2022 bond package. It was one of the things that when we formed our long-range facilities planning team, we sought volunteers for a focus group. We made sure that included representatives from across the district, and we made sure that it included not only athletic parents and stakeholders, but fine arts parents and stakeholders in it as well, because when you're talking about any stadium solution, obviously your band and your drill teams and your cheer and those programs need to have a voice in that as well, because it impacts their programs as well as our audio video programs. They had 5 different focus group meetings over the course between November and March of 22 and 23. We had 2 different times that we brought information back to our long-range facilities planning team. And then at the conclusion, when the top solutions were identified, we also brought in a consultant to do an economic impact for us as well, and that is to discuss what could the economic impact of a stadium solution be upon this community, or an auditorium to the scale that the focus group was talking about. So, and we'll discuss that a little bit more. We went through a similar discussion with the auditorium. I think they only had 4 focus group meetings, but we had 2 times with the long range facilities planning team, 4 focus group meetings, and we also did the economic impact analysis on that. And so the discussion that I would close us with tonight, I know we have about 5 minutes left. If y'all could talk a little more with your partner again and think about the discussion around stadium, and please give us some feedback on what information we can bring to y'all so that y'all feel informed to have a discussion around this important topic. So we can take about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and then we'll gather that feedback and then wrap it up with final thoughts.
Is it stadium and auditorium, or just stadium?
Stadium and auditorium. Just what information will y'all need from us as a district to be well informed, to have this discussion?
Dollars.
Pros and cons. What is the community leaning into in terms of do they want a stadium, or do they want to renovate both? Stadium notwithstanding the cost, do they want one stadium that hosts, one big one that hosts everything?
Maybe bond capacity would probably be an important piece too.
So they just have capacity to 5,000 sport facility, 5,000 seats. Those are about 2 Yes.
Saying. Especially if we're going to become bigger. Depends on how much everybody's going to become.
Number one is pros and cons of renovating houses. Because at some point, do we get into structural safety issues? These places, yeah, they need renovation, but
No.
at what point do they, you're still gonna have to renovate because of the.
That's right. I wonder on this one, on community perspective, too, there's, surveys is what you feels like, there's surveys opportunity to just, take out a representative sample of our community, it's not sitting in the meeting, what does average taxpayer feel about that?
We have to have that information.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the presentation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think partnerships is another thing we need to know. We might be interested in partnerships. And if we want to. That's what I hope.
But you're the one that's hit forever.
All right, what are y'all's thoughts? Y'all want to kick us off again? Rucker?
I think the question I have when you look at having a single site is how much parking that's mandated by code from the city perspective. And I would like to know partnerships that we could explore where we could share that parking. I hate the idea of paying money to build asphalt and cement. You could use that elsewhere. So what options do we have? You look at UMHB and First Baptist Belton, for example, that can share some parking that it absorbs that cost. Do you want to?
Yeah, so what I was thinking is that perhaps a different location that would be a shared site, as opposed to letting Belton High be the continued site for shared use for Lake Belton and other facilities. Perhaps if we have the property and the space, we could have a shared use facility somewhere else that we could also rent out to other partners.
Okay.
One stadium, you mean? Like one stadium?
Right.
Chris and Aaron?
Can we do it? Sort of the list of needs and current issues related to the current facilities, right? Sort of what projects would we need to do those and the cost that kind of goes along with them, the ongoing maintenance costs of those. Then sort of if we look at the other option, which is, a single shared, what is the anticipated needs and cost requirements, right, around those and the cost that goes along with that. Knowing that it probably doesn't mean the destruction of Tiger Field or Bronco Field, right? There's ongoing maintenance costs there, even if you have, another facility, right? So some kind of thought around what is the total cost of that kind of facility. Tax rate, what does the tax rate impact, right, look like in the options? But what we've left out is, right, it's a community sentiment, right? So there's the financial goggles, right, that you look through, but that's just one set of goggles. And so the community sentiment piece of this, I think, is really important, and it's separate from the financial goggles. So,
Thank you.
Mouthful there.
Yeah, well, going along with that, I would like to see some good some good polling information on what would pass. I think we really need to know that. We can have all the opinions we want in the world, but if we can't get one thing to win over another, then that's pointless. And we would also need to know how to help people come along if there was a better plan. So, and polling is such a tricky thing. We can start with just our families and do our normal thing that we send out to our email and texting, or however we do with our own school families in our entire district. But then we also need to get the sentiment of the community at large. And that's a little trickier.
Okay. Anything else?
We pretty much had the same sentiments. Number one, cost, pros and cons of renovating both facilities, or making Lake Belton its own varsity field renovating Belton, the Belton field and the cost thereof, pros and cons of that, or doing what Suzanne said, having a multi-sport facility with a bunch of seats, you know, that the Broncos could play and then the Tigers could play. And then, just like Janice said, the sentiment of the community and how they feel about that. That's obviously very, very important. In terms of partnerships, like Chris said, to me, the ideal situation would be like if the city of Belton was to contribute because it's going to help them in some way. I don't know that I'd like to be joined at the hip forever. But it's something that we should explore. And then I know Jeff and I attended a meeting with the city of Temple was here,
City of
Belton. Our mayor was here.
Both mayors.
Yeah, both mayors were here. City manager for Temple was here. Sam Listy was here. So we've all, I don't know what's come of that. I guess we're going to explore that further, but it's something that needs to be looked into.
Very good. I think we threw a lot of information at you tonight, but y'all have given us some really good feedback on some next steps. And if you think of anything else, obviously reach out and we'll include that in some future discussion. But a lot of work going on. A lot of people are really interested in making sure that we put good plans together and give you guys really good information, and that we can move the work forward. So we're excited about it.
Board, if you're okay, based on that feedback, I think what I'd like to do is have potentially a special meeting in the next month or so, and we start chipping away at some of those needs that you just identified. I think we can start by talking about current financial status and bond capacities. So we haven't had an update from Jennifer Ritter in a while, and I think that would be an important lens for us to start looking at things through. And Mike's taken some notes there, but we can plan maybe an agenda that would allow us to address some of those things that you just shared and start taking some steps forward so we can develop a thoughtful plan for whenever it might come to fruition. Does that work for everybody? Okay. I want to thank Mike publicly and Steve Berry. They've done a tremendous job on our bond projects and a lot of our projects so far. David Bennett before he retired, and now Rodney coming along the way. We've got good people doing good work in our system, and we're thankful for that. And the fact that we're getting ready to open up Burrell and celebrate Burrell we've had a thoughtful process that has included the family in that planning. We're really excited about that. And then Hubbard Branch soon after, and some real exciting renovation projects. It's important to note that a $30+ million investment in Belton High School, and a $13+ million investment in Southwest, and a $12 million investment in Lake Belton Middle School. It's all due to the support of our community, or from our community, and we're grateful for that, because those are facilities that needed some attention, and we're thankful for that. And getting ready to celebrate those things. So.
I will say I was remiss too that I didn't mention our communications team. They're right there with us too, and telling this story on social media, and telling it to us on the website, and providing a lot of information to our community on these projects too. And I think that they've done a great job, and we're going to continue to try to give them good information so they can get the story out as well. But they've done a good job with
Quick
this.
question, and just some clarity on it. On these, the long-range planning facility meetings, the one that you've been talking about, are they on the VISD calendar? Do we know? And the reason I ask is, and maybe this is wrong, but if a board member didn't want to be involved but wanted to just kind of sit into one and listen, just, hey, this is what, so that a better feel of kind of what's being said and what the feeling is, how would we know? And is it okay if a board member attends one?
It would entirely be okay. We would want to space it out so we did not have a quorum.
Right.
So we would use that. What we could do is we could put that on our event sign-up sheet, so that people could stop in. We did want to keep that separate because this is not a board committee, so we didn't want to have you all in the middle of that all the time. There's no reason ever that whenever we're holding a public meeting like that, we'd be glad. I should rephrase that. Whenever we're holding a committee meeting like that, we should. You're always welcome. So
Yeah, we'll make sure y'all have that information.
I mean, when we added a position several years ago, right, around the 2017 bond, right, around like construction auditing and like oversight and things like that. I mean, I think it was such a smart decision to add that position, right? And I think it adds so much to kind of what we're doing from oversight and sort of responsibility and sort of the financial piece of it. You know, so glad we have that.
We, and that's not a position, but it's a contract,
Yeah.
and we are continuing to do that, and it's the same auditor we used in the past. We're very thankful for that, and I agree with you. That's the lens of accountability and transparency that we want to show our community. Appreciate you pointing that out. Mr. President, I think we're
Anything
done.
else? Thank you, Rodney, Steve. Thank you, sir. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our workshop. There'll be no further business. We are adjourned at 6:06. We gotta hurry, don't we?
Sorry about that.
I don't know. Janet.